Sai Ram.
I didn't break it, did I?
Once again, I offer my most prayerful pranams at the divine lotus feet of Swami. This was such a wonderful afternoon, so let's give the wise a big round of applause. I always request people to organize retreats. I say, don't give me an hour immediately after lunch, because that's the toughest. The best of the stories fall into flat ears when the stomach and the brain is in the interest of digestion. But this is excellent because it revived everyone. And it brought a lot of memories to my mind. So I'm going to, since we're in this bhajan mood, I'm going to share some interesting anecdotes around this, and let's see where Swami guides this session. You know, we all want to sing bhajans, and bhajans is one of the bhajans or kirtans or devotional singing, as we call it, is the cornerstone of a group satsang. When you meet under the Sai organization or under the Sai banner, bhajans is a very important component of the get-togethers. And it was the same in Puttaparthi too. We always had a morning bhajan and an evening bhajan session, and even Swami would cut short his interviews and come for the bhajans because he would love it. So this Gana Vilola not just applied to Krishna, but it more so applied to Swami because he loved singing, he loved the name of God to be chanted. And when there was melody and rhythm added to it, it just, we could see Swami as a completely different being. It all began many years when the college was just inaugurated. There were old devotees singing in the mandir, in the bhajan hall. There was two gentlemen on the men's side and a lady on the women's side, and I think one or two ladies on the women's side. And so after a few months, Swami said, you know what, I want some youngsters to start singing, so I'll come to the hostel and I will do an audition. So whichever boys want to sing, whoever wants to sing, they can be ready and I'll listen to them and I'll select. So everybody was excited, and because I never knew how to start on a scale or on a shruti. This was, but I didn't know to sing basically because of, like I said, my Pithukuli Murtadas and all. We knew basic music was there, but at a very basic level. So I definitely volunteered. I said I want to be anything to be in that front few lines around Swami, with Swami. It also meant there's no competing with other boys. You just can walk and sit right to the front when it's time to sit in bhajans. And so there were 12 of us who wanted to sing when Swami came. And so Swami came that afternoon, I think it was Sunday afternoon. Because Sundays was the time he started visiting us on weekends. So all of us started, each of us sang one song. And I remember the first song I sang before Swami was a simple 4-line bhajan. And Swami listened to everything. And then Swami said, okay, I'll tell the result tomorrow. So everybody was like, I'm going to select, I'll give the list tomorrow. So we were all, of course, on our toes waiting for this result, and Swami was very gracious. He said, let all of them sing, but let them all practice and sing. That was the sweet part of it. After that came the rod. Swami always had the carrot and stick approach. He shows the carrot and then he has a stick behind. Once he started singing in the mandir, then he started being more serious about singing a bhajan, especially leading a bhajan. I think the lessons we learned that was very powerful as to how he brought us the idea of how leading a bhajan is not, you are doing seva there. Because of you, like, you told just a few minutes ago how the bhava is important because your singing and your voice spurs the bhava, the feeling in people, and because of you, people raise their consciousness. So you're doing a seva there. You're not sitting in front of the mic to show how well you can sing and your talent. That was a nice thought. Once Swami gave a very beautiful discourse on bhajan like this. And so what he said in that discourse was God does not really care for raga and tala and all this. He just cares for your feelings. So open your heart and sing. Don't be hesitant whether you're a good singer or a bad singer, sing. I was very happy. I was like, yes, finally somebody speaking my language. Because it was stressful. The mic will be fast to you, Swami is sitting, you can't look like this, because with Swami you can't say, oh, I can't hear, give me louder, or try once or twice. You know, you can't make a mistake there. And so, we had to really practice. So by the time you actually sang in front of Swami, it was like very dry. It was just like, whatever I practiced, I better do it. I'm like, oh, thank God, today my bhajan went off well. It wasn't a feeling of, the beauty of emotion and feeling. That all came much later, but in the beginning it was all more stress. How did I sing in the mic, rather than anything. So, for me, when Swami said this in the discourse, I was like, yes, finally I can sing, and I don't think Swami is going to get angry if I miss Shruti here and there. Swami finished his discourse, so it's logical, right? Everybody is happy. Swami finished his discourse and came to us. How was my discourse? Like, all the bhajan boys are sitting. So he came to, it'll only matter, how was my talk? So obviously we're going to say yes, Swami very nice, and I had a big beam in my face. And I suppose a couple of others like me also did. Yes, Swami, very nice. And he said, Chudandi, listen, what I told was for people who follow, not for people who lead. Oh my gosh. He condensed the entire bhajan workshop in one sentence. He condensed an entire bhajan workshop in one sentence. That is for people who follow. And then he said beautifully, he looked at the tabla boy and he said, you play in tala. And he looked at the harmonium boy and said, you play in raga. And no, he looked at the singer and said, you sing in raga. He looked at the tabla boy and said, you play in tala. And he said, when you sing in raga and tala, the devotees will sing out of bhava. And I will sit here and enjoy the raga, tala and bhava. And he said, Bhava Raga Tala, Bha Rata Bharata. The name of the country, Bharat, is based on Bhava Raga and Tala, where emotions, feelings, where the melody, the rhythm, and the lyrics, that's a meaning which evokes Bhava, they all combine in beauty and become Namasmarana. That's why Kirtan is something, is a practice, we call it Kirtan or Bhajans. It means the same, they're synonymous. Kirtan is called, it's called in the north, Kirtan, and in the north, India, bhajan is referred to devotional songs, not as followed. But Kirtan is considered as what we do now, what we call in the south as bhajans, that Swami used to call bhajans. But the practice of this has sustained through centuries, only because of this. Because when ideally you combine rhythm, melody and lyrics, then automatically your soul is elevated into a completely different plane. And so Swami taught us that, I said, and he said, so you do your duty, it's your duty when you sit in front of the mic, it's your duty, it's your obligation to use whatever talent God has got. So he's always said, sing the name, sing something everybody can follow. Don't sit here and show off what you can sing. Don't come thinking what I want to sing today. Think what will the devotees want, what is the, so the way we were trained is we would come and sit and would ask who's singing what. So they will say, oh, there's the Devi. Then I'll tell the guy at the harmonium, he's usually the coordinator. Nobody questions these things. So I'll say, I like to sing third or fourth. He'll say, what bhajan you like? I'll say, maybe I like to sing Nandalala, Nandalala. He says, yeah, Sunder, but see, before somebody is already singing a Krishna bhajan, and there's one lady, you want to think something else. So I'll quickly think of something else. So the idea was, can we touch everyone's taste? Can we sing one Shiva, one Hanuma, one Nandalala, one Rama, one Krishna, maybe an Anjaneya, maybe Sarvadharma. Then they'll always say, there's no Sarvadharma today, who wants to sing Sarvadharma? There aren't too many Sarvadharma songs, so not many takers were there, but somehow somebody always volunteered to sing a Sarvadharma. So the idea was, we learned to do it as a seva, not what I feel like singing. There was once a boy who sang, you never hear this boy singing this one particular bhajan, not after this incident. And there's a reason why, and this is why. This is a very beautiful bhajan, Anat Bandho Sai Prabhu, Aprad Kshama Karo Sai Prabhu. What a beautiful bhajan. So this boy sang it beautifully. Anat Bandho Sai Prabhu, Aprad Kshama Karo Sai Prabhu. Meaning, oh, the one who takes care of orphans, please forgive my sins and purify me, but what that meaning was. So the bhajan got over. Next day Swami came, he started walking and he came to this boy. He said, "You sang very well." That Swami touched Swami's feet. He was very happy. Swami said, "Next time, you want to sing like this bhajan? You sing in the bathroom." So he was shocked. Ilanti bhajan lo, no hostel lo, bathroom lo paadu. Nenu vintanu. I said, "I will listen to you. That is between you and me. Because you want to ask for forgiveness. Why do you want everyone to say sorry?" The boy felt like asking for forgiveness, but he didn't realize I'm seeking for forgiveness, everybody is also asking for forgiveness. So Swami said, "I'm sitting on the chair, I'm seeing only castor oil faces." I don't want to see castor oil faces, I want to see everybody singing the glory and the name of God. That's why Nama Smarana, it is just the name, that's it. Krishna, Rama, Govinda, Shiva, it's just the name. As long as we can energize, and it doesn't have to be fast or slow, not that way, but if the bhajan energizes, brings in the quality, then it becomes a very beautiful session, a beautiful bhajan session, and then everybody joins in. The followers add to the leaders, and then the bhava is created. Once that energy is created, I know we have all experienced that in many bhajan sessions, in Akhanda bhajans, in Shivratri, then energy is created, it's fantastic, you just float in that. It's almost like everybody is lifting together, it's very easy. You don't have to worry about distraction because there's enough going on that the mind is either occupied on the ragam or the talam or the bhava, and between all these three, it's just enjoying this upliftment. So there was a couple of things. Of course, there was some funny incidents with Swami too. One Swami gave an interview to a gentleman, and he came and said, "Vedda Bhajan Singaru, move, give place for him." So immediately after the interview, so I don't know what he told Swami. And so we made room for him because anybody coming new to sing for us will be like, "Wow, some new singer, we'll listen to the new bhajans." And so we moved and made place for him, and he came and sat. And Swami also quickly finished everything and came and sat, and bhajans had started. And then he indicated, passed the mic to him. And of course, this man was from Calcutta. I don't mean to make fun of him, but this is exactly what happened. I just have to tell you how it happened. Okay, so pardon me, I don't mean to. And so he started, there's a beautiful bhajan, Hey Ram Partipurishwar Ram. So he, Hey Room Partipurishwar Room. Swami looked at him, and Swami said, "Room mangta hai, accommodation ja." Because nobody followed, everybody was shocked. So Ram became room, and so Swami said, "Ram bolo Ram, room either nahi, So we had a good laugh. Oh my gosh. There's another reason why for a very, very long time the lecturers didn't sing in front of Swami, the college lecturers. Once we did have a session very early, and Professor Kasturi is an amazing, is a saint who can just be so simple and sweet, and when he laughs, something happens to you, so you laugh with him, and Swami laughs with him too. He had come with Swami to college, and boys sang, and then some of the lecturers said, "We never get a chance to sing in front of the Swami." Swami said, "Yeah, sing." So there were two songs that day. It was a chaos that day. Bhajan was a chaos. Everybody was so laughing so madly. Swami said, "Okay, no bhajans." The reason was, the first bhajan started like this. One, of course, a couple of them sang very well. This one lecturer started, "Main kya karu," some sloka he wanted to sing. I don't know. He just started. It means the English meaning, the English translation is, "What do I do?" What do I do? And so Swami said, "Chup karo." Swami said, "Keep quiet." In the same tone. So, because he started "Main kya karu," and then either he wanted the talam to start or what, I don't know. Everybody was silent. Swami said, "Chup karo." Very sweet. So that was one laughter. And Professor Kasturi was sitting, Swami made him sit next to him on a chair because he was quite old by then. He was laughing so much, and Swami looked at him, Swami was wiping his tears, and Swami said, "God bless him." And then one or two bhajans went nicely, and then came this another one. This was like a real record breaker. So this person started, and bear with me, I'll tell the bhajan and then I'll translate it for those of you who don't know Hindi. The bhajan is Sai Darbar mein aao aao. Again, another beautiful bhajan. Sai Darbar mein aao aao. So he took a deep breath at the wrong place. So what he did, he said, Sai Daru Bar mein aao aao. So those of you who don't know Hindi, for those of you, you know, India has got 23 different languages. When you split something, it means completely different. So Sai Darbar mein aao aao means come into this court of Swami, come into this beautiful environment of Sai. Come into this. But this beautiful environment, the Darbar, the court of Swami, the palace of Swami, can become completely different because he broke the word Daru bar into Daru, and Daru means whiskey and bar is bar. So please come into this bar of whiskey. So the moment he said, Sai Daru bar mein aao, Swami looked at him and Swami said, Chalu. Swami did like this, Swami said, Chalu. Oh, we laughed so much. Chalu didn't stop, you know. So Swami, you know, and of course in that evening again Swami said how important it is that you learn the word. If you want to sing a language, learn it and sing it the way it has to be sung. If you're not, like, you know, Hari Subramaniam does some very good bhajan workshops. I don't know if he's been here. I've witnessed a couple of his workshops as part of some retreats where we shared the platform together, and I enjoy how he breaks the wife here and I'm here as to wife here and I'm here and all that. So, but it's true. It's very true. It's very true as to how the meaning, because what you sing is not what you feel. It has to be a seva. It has to be a service. And so there are really very powerful lessons that we learn with Swami. When people ask me what was the essence of what I took from Swami's life, I bring it down into 6 words. 6 words that continue to inspire me every day today. So at the end of this whole week, I don't know if I'll have time to do all the 6 in one session. I might do 3, 4 today and some tomorrow. But if you just remember these 6 words and ask yourself what each of these words mean, they're not hard to remember. And you probably heard many of these words from Swami himself. But I saw him live these words. And I think if these words become the pillar of your life, as it has become the pillars of my life, then the life is sanctified. You feel empowered, you feel energized, you feel completely steeped in the aura and the divinity that Swami wants you to be in. The essence of Swami's teachings is to discover who we are. I know it sounds very highly philosophical when we say, find your higher self or go within and know that you are divine. It sounds like, yeah, right, that's going to happen. That's going to happen. Let's wait, that can happen slowly. Spirituality is not something you wait for, or the awakening, yeah, that will come slow, that will come. When you say that will come, that will be always around the corner. But you start saying that you are God, though it doesn't make sense. You start saying, slowly the meaning will start applying to you, and you start understanding what it is. It's very important for us to grasp that, and once you understand that, then everything else falls in place. And before I begin this, these 6 Ds, I just feel like sharing this analogy I use. It's called the treasure in the attic. I got this name from the TV show, Home and Garden Show TV. Maya and I do all our home improvements ourselves. So I watch the show often, and there's a show called Treasure in the Attic. Not that the show was important, but I like the terminology, and it's something stayed with me. And I think it's what we are searching for is a treasure in our attic. It's like, you know, I say it's a Saturday afternoon, I want to sit back and enjoy a football game, and I've got my new BMW parked in my driveway. I want to then later on go sit and smell the fresh car smell. That's a guy thing anyway. Get the new car smell and just check it out. And I've got my afternoon plan, but when I come home, my wife says, no, you have to put these Christmas decorations up in the attic, so please get it done now. We can guess next week and all. So I'm like, I'm cribbing, I'm off mood. I climb up the ladder, go and start putting the boxes away in the attic, and then while clearing or setting these boxes out, I notice a small little container. I said, what is this small thing? And I open it, and to my amazement, I find a large piece of diamond in that. This is where the lady's eyes go like this. I find a large piece of diamond. And then I ask, what do you think my mood will be when I come down? When I went up, it was all off mood. I was, cribbing. I was like, my afternoon is gone. I wanted to spend, watch the match or whatever. And now, am I going to come down saying, yeah, there's this little box, what is that, one diamond? No, I'm going to come back whistling a happy tune. I'm going to be very happy. Now when I come down, my wife is keeping her fingers crossed. She's very nervous. Why? Because the old neighbor across the street went backing out his car. He hit my brand new BMW. And she's like, oh my God, Sunder is going to freak out. He loves cars. I don't have a BMW, by the way. That's why I want people to bash it. I'm sorry. So, and so she's nervous. She comes and tells me, please don't freak out. Please be calm. This is what happened. But normally, I would have lost my cool. I would have said, oh my gosh, my brand new car, what happened? He never backs out properly, this, that, all the insurance, this, that. What do I say today? Today I say, it's okay, honey. It's a car, that's all right. It's a car. I go home, there's a voicemail waiting for me. The light is on, I listen to the message. They say, Mr. Sunder, it was great working with you, and we did a reorg, and unfortunately we have to let you go. And so come Monday morning and see me at my work, and we now I lost my job too. Now normally, you come down, you lost your afternoon, you come down, your car is gone, you come inside, you're losing your job. You'll say, what happened to, did Shani take like a 360-degree turn and go somewhere else? Or what happened? Did some planet suddenly change? What happened to me? Things which will upset you, cause you a heart attack maybe, or stress you out. That day, what do? I pick up the phone, call him back and say, it's okay, you know what, life is life. One job goes, another comes. But it was great working with you too. Nothing affects me. Things which have normally affected me, things didn't change. The situations were the same. But what would have affected me is not affecting me anymore. Why? Because I saw the treasure in the attic. Did I invest that treasure? Did I sell it, make the money and put it in stock and make it? No. Just the knowledge, just the knowing that there is treasure. That's all. I've not even experienced that. Later on there's so much more to do with that, right? I've not even, just the knowing that there was treasure in my attic changed my complete attitude to life. I took things in my stride. So when we become devotees of Baba, we don't expect situations to change in life. People ask, how come such an old devotee, everything is happening, he also had an accident in his family, or his mother also fell sick, or there are stories like that. Life doesn't change because you become a devotee of God. God has not come here to fix our problems, because in the first place the problems don't exist. You and I don't exist. This is a play of consciousness. That's a whole different matter. But situations don't change. But what changes is our capacity, our perception. Our perceptions change. And we are able to perceive things in a completely different light. When you know that God is taking over your life, then you accept everything as His prasadam, acceptance. Unconditional acceptance. That opens the way to understanding spirituality. Unconditional acceptance of how life comes to you. Knowing that this circumstance, this person, or good or bad, everything is falling in place because of a higher plan that my own divinity is guiding me. It's a sai within me is guiding me. I think that is what we find, that's where we find empowerment. And once we accept that, then we begin to realize slowly the little diamond. We actually start exploring the diamond. The beauty in this is we have a guru who says there is a diamond in the attic. That is the greatest thing. The only thing we need to have is a faith. We need to believe that beyond my body, beyond my breath, and beyond this incessant racing bundle of thoughts, there is another part of me which is lying dormant, which I have probably not explored. But we have all touched that, believe me, we have all touched that part, and we do. Like I said, in moments, there are moments in bhajan, there are moments in meditation, there are moments in deep prayer, there are moments where suddenly something talks to you. There is a message, you know it is for you. It could be during watching a film, I don't know, it does talk to you, know it. Ah, that was for me. That moment, unfortunately, lasts for a few seconds. But the more you accept that, the more you yearn for that moment, that becomes slowly a greater part of your mind and your body. And then that takes over. And then you start living in that plane of spiritual awareness. And then things start happening. You feel Swami around you and with you all the time. The first D, not everybody is going to like it, is the word I learned from Swami was discipline. I know this, we understand discipline as a whole bunch of do's and don'ts. We've heard it from our childhood, and children are still hearing this. But with Swami, it was a lot more than external pressure. What I saw in his life, and this is where I'm going to talk about his personal day-to-day routine, how he lived, and I've talked about it in videos elsewhere too, but it's worth listening to it again and again. I never get tired of telling it, because here was a master who lived his life, setting an example, and we need to explore, examine that example again and again, and know that it is actually possible. Here was, just look at Swami, that's why I said, let's look at him as a human being, and even that baffles me. A village which was not even on the map of India, forget the world, even on the Indian map. Even people in Andhra Pradesh didn't know where or what Puttaparthi was. In that village, there's a little village kid who has a dream. Who dreams of what? Changing the world. How many kids dream of becoming a fireman, policeman? They want so many things. But this one kid stuck to his dream. That's what made him different. He stuck to his dream. He said, I'm going to change the world. I have a mission. I want to spread faith, righteousness, peace, love, and non-violence at a very young age. And it wasn't like his parents said, yes, we are there to support you, whatever, honey. I wish they did. They thought he was possessed. They thought there was this, what is this? My God. This should be the regular kid, like taking the cows out to the field or whatever they could afford at that time. I don't know what Swami didn't. I don't think their family could afford cows and all that. But they expected him to be regular kid going to school and coming back barefoot, walking all the way to Bukapatnam and coming back. But here is suddenly he's talking something strange. So right from day one, this kid only met with opposition. Only opposition. And it's true not just with Swami, with every master if you see when they leave the earth, there's only a small fraction of believers. Always. And later on, historians come and the message spreads and it takes off. I mean, when Jesus, I love the story of Jesus. I think it's the best story ever told. And if you look at his life, it's like, when he left, there were only 12, a handful of people who believed. Even those 12 didn't want to openly say they believed. So he really had nobody, at the moment he passed away, he really had nobody. It almost looked like his mission was failed. Right? But it hasn't. 2000 years later, it is one of the greatest religions. And you look at a church, you feel peaceful. You look at a sign of cross, it reminds you of how your ego should be cut up clean across. So, if Swami's life, he started off in a place where there was nobody, there was no roads, there was nothing. I often think, wow, how does that happen? Why does that happen? And it reminds me of the analogies with old stories which I heard, which I couldn't believe. Now I could believe them because of this example. What are the old stories? Krishna was born in a prison. And I actually think he was born in a prison and his uncle nearly threw him against the wall. That is physical abuse, right? Straight away. He could have cried the rest of his life thinking, my mother deserted me, she sent me to a coward, and my uncle tried to kill me, and I'm like, he had enough excuses to be a normal coward guy. But he rose to be an emperor, a king, a god, an avatar. Jesus Christ was hidden in a manger. His birth was not even recorded because they didn't want Romans to know that he was born, because all these newborn children were being killed or whatever. So they tried to hide him. But divinity cannot be suppressed. As a young carpenter's child grows up to be the teacher of the world, Swami, born. So these are, if you say these are 5,000, 2,000 years old, okay, take the story right now, in our era, in a generation where you and I can relate to. Here comes a kid completely in an unknown, God-forsaken place, a name of a village named after Serpent Hills. That means it shows how barren that place was, how God-forsaken that place was. There he decides to say, a child decides, I'm going to spread the word. It's almost as if to prove to us, and the lesson I take home is, I have so many things already given to me, and yet I'm complaining on things I don't. And here is one who didn't have anything, and he decided to change the world. Wow. That is so powerful, that in itself makes me admire Swami beyond words. How does that even happen? How many of us think of a project, then we make a list of, if only this happened, then I will do it. But I can do it, but the ifs and the buts and the ifs and the buts, there are so many of them, and we push spirituality. Yes, spirituality come, but it's not that easy. So the but is, we have put that but there. If only I had got a chance with Swami, I can also progress. If is there already. So we have a lot of ifs and buts, in our life. But here is one who decided not to look at the ifs and buts, just look and focus on this mission. That inculcation of that, I think, was the discipline that's brought in this, that Swami reflected as discipline in his life. That enormous energy to carry out what he wanted to do. His daily routine was incredibly austere. Very austere. He would get up at 3 and 3:30 in the morning, or 3:45. Sometimes if he's late, he might get up at 4. And his bedroom had a small window. It had 4 panels. And 3 of them will be always closed. They were wooden panels. They were closed. And 1 wooden panel will be open. But because it was looking across the West Prashanti, I'm just throwing these names for those of you who have been there can relate to it, but otherwise it doesn't matter. There was buildings there where devotees stayed. So he said, if I would put the light on in my room, the devotees would know Sai Baba is up. So they will all be up at 4 o'clock in the morning trying to vie over each other to get a glimpse of my hair or something. That would be indiscipline in the ashram. Why should I cause indiscipline? So guess what he did? He would get up in the morning, there was this, those stainless steel, huge flashlights. The big ones, the really big ones, the heavy ones, which was also used as a self-weapon, self-defense weapon. I think in India's villages, people used to carry, the watchmen and all used to carry those days. Nowadays you have them as apps on the phone. But Swami had a few of those, because I remember here because I used to replace those big batteries for them. And Swami would put one of them on and turn it upside down and keep it on his, there was a writing desk, there was a small bed writing desk, he would keep it on that. And then he would carry on doing his morning work. He'll go to the bathroom, he'll put the light on because there was no window there. So when he has his shower and all, he has his light on, then he'll put it off, come and with his flashlight, he will dry his hair and he will do it without putting the light on till about 5:30 in the morning. After the Suprabhadam was over, then he'll put the light on. So the Suprabhadam was for, I think, waking ourselves up. We really didn't have to wake up Swami, he was awake much before that. And I used to wonder, is this how Swami, and I asked Radhakrishna, is this how Swami lives every day? He said, yeah, it's whatever, he doesn't want to put on the light. We tried telling him, but he doesn't listen. So it touched me. It's like, person sacrificing his own freedom because he's setting an example. Even when there was nobody watching. Nobody would have ever known this. If I had not told this, nobody would have ever known this. But I want people to know that that was an austere life he was living. Then he would, and if I look at the day in Swami's life, he finishes that, and then of course he has, like I said, he uses his hair dry. He's like a regular person. He used to shave twice a day because he had a thick growth. And he would always say, this body is not mine, this belongs to devotees. It has to be clean, they come for darshan. So it has to be clean, it has to be clean. He would come out and sit on the chair, put on the light, and then he'll start reading letters or something. That's all. His first thing in the morning, what is the letter I have to catch up on? You can do that for 1 or 2 days. I like receiving fan mails, but after 2 days, I'm like, I'll catch up with the mail later. I'm just kidding, but all of us are like that. How many of us do have really patience to go through all those mails? And they're not fan mails, they're all problem mails. They're all problem. Each one is having some problem or the other, and of course it's their right to offer it to Swami. But they write and Swami reads all of them. Swami reads each one as much as he can physically possible. That's all. That was his pastime. There were no books for him to read, no radio for him to listen to, or TV for him to watch, or people to engage in. His discussions were engaged with Kamavadani Garu, who was a Vedic Pandit. Really old gentleman, even when we knew him. He would come, I don't know if the old gentleman will first walk out before Swami comes out, bent in age. He was an expert in Rig Veda. He never spoke. I don't know when he stopped speaking, but he stopped speaking completely, and he would only chant the Vedas. All his waking hours, he would chant Vedas or talk to Swami. And Swami would jokingly tell us, even not to me, he will not talk. He's not into Veda. And Swami, for pulling his leg, Swami will ask him, who's Rama's wife? He will do like that. I don't know. He didn't know the Upanishads because he knew only the Veda. He was beyond all that. He knew only Vedas. He didn't know who Rama was. He didn't know anything. He will just shake his head to Swami. Don't ask me all that. Don't disturb me. And he'll be pressing Swami's feet and constantly chanting. Swami will say he's chanting the Vedas constantly. He's completely immersed. He was a rishi. He had his own penance. But with those kind of people, Swami will be talking. I'm like, you need a break, Swami. Really. And so Swami Karnananda will come. Swami will talk about yoga, meditation, something he will talk to him about. And I was privileged to sit in many of those sessions. Or the ashram, regular things that's going on, who's coming today, and have you made accommodation arrangement for somebody, if some minister is coming or some VIP is coming. Okay, so have you made arrangement, who's looking after their food, this, that. It always was about what is going on, who's taking care of whom, and all this. And then he comes out to darshan and goes around only to give happiness to people. He picks up people for interviews. You know what happens in the interviews, sisters, problems and all that. And so, problem solving. He comes to bhajans, he sits down there, karo kripa karo songs, and then also he's like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And then he goes back. I saw Swamis, and this has happened morning and then evening again, same old. And not 1 or 2 days, it went on for days, weeks, months, years. And within those 4 small walls, the upstairs room was exactly the same as the ground interview room, just 10 feet by 12 feet. His bedroom was even smaller, darker and more dingier because 3 of those 4 wooden panels were closed. There was really no light. And so you would wonder, how does one even maintain sanity under these conditions? How does he do that? And yet, have you ever seen Swami, if you see any of these pictures of Swami, there's never a moment where you see a dull face. There was always vibrancy in Swami's face. He was always vibrant, he was always radiant, he was always glowing. It was amazing. I always wonder, where did that glow come from? So, the only logical way my mind could find peace was that he had access to a source which is beyond my comprehension. He had access to that source. That is where he found his vacation. That was his Bahamas. That's where he escaped. It was somewhere else. It wasn't physical at all. Because of our incessant obsession with the body, we relate everything to the body. Because of our incessant obsession to who we think we are with our mind and thoughts, we relate everything to our mind, and therefore we think God has to make sense in our mind. We try to comprehend Swami with our mind, and therefore even the longest standing devotees go through doubts. But Swami would say it is normal. It is nothing to be guilty about, because I remember we were sitting at Swami's feet and one boy gave a letter, Swami opened it, right, and put him as a spot. He said, "What sorry for doubts? All the time doubting. Why are you sorry?" "Swami, I can't get 100% faith." "How can you get, sir? You are trying to put an elephant inside a matchbox," he said. "You are trying to bring God into your mind. That is why you are doubting. Take your mind to God. There will be no doubt." Very profound. Then he said, when you look at my picture, don't bring God into the picture. Take the picture to God. I never could understand that. It took me a while to understand what it meant. But then I understood, when you look at Swami's picture, that picture should remind you of divinity, and your mind should go to that divinity. Rather, we bring our problems to Swami and try to contain him here. We try to bring him down to our life. We try to keep him in our life. Try to figure out with our limited mind, which is not even understood who I am. I don't even know how to analyze my own dreams, which I dream in the night. Right? I Google out and find out what happens if you dream you were whatever. We don't understand our own selves, and we're trying to understand God, or someone who claims He's God. How can we understand? We cannot, because we are trying to limit divinity. We're trying to comprehend the tools that we are using are limited. So Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, another great saint in India, told Vivekananda, when you want to measure the depths of the ocean, I will give you a salt doll with a long rope. You put that salt doll and let it keep going into the ocean. And then when it touches the bottom, you pull it out. You'll know how deep the ocean is. And Vivekananda knew what he meant. Because a salt doll, when it starts going into the ocean, is never going to come back to tell you the depths. But what I'm trying to say, understanding Swami is not wrong. But in trying to understand Him, you're opening to your own, you're getting into that ocean. And slowly you will merge with Him. That is the meaning of Salokya in the Upanishads. Salokya, Samipya, Sarupya, Sayujya. Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya, Sayujya. What does it mean? Salokya, you enter the world of God. Sa is always divine. Sa means divine. Sa-ai means the divine mother. Swami also explained to me, Sa-ai. Sa plus I. Your I becomes divine, you become Sai. But that Salokya, you enter the world of divinity, like we are, we enter the world of Sai, we accept Him, we start reading and trying to reach out to Him, become part of Him. That brings us to Sarupya, we accept His form, a name and form. Everybody relates to one name and one form of God. In some form, in some way or the other. Even the most abstract religions have a symbol to symbolize divinity, even though they claim it's formless. But for them to make some sense, they need a mosque, or they need a church, or they need a temple. Something have to symbolize. Even the Vedic periods, they needed fire to symbolize divinity. So the mind has to have something like a springboard to take off. So the name and form is so important. That is Sarupya. Sarupya, the form becomes divine. That brings you closer. Once you have established a relationship with God, you get closer and closer in bhakti, in devotion. You consider Him as your mother, your father, your friend, a teacher, a master, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Or if you have an idea of God and He fits into it, fine, call Him God. That's whatever, it doesn't really matter. But that relationship grows thicker and thicker, and you get closer and closer. You listen to Him, you talk to Him, you feel His guidance, you feel His hand in your life. Sarupya becomes Samipya, you get closer and closer, and that proximity gets so close that it becomes Sayuja. You merge into consciousness, you merge into divinity completely, and your life becomes, you become a pure instrument and allowed by God to work through you. That, to me, is the goal of life. To me, that is the way we sanctify our life. To me, that's the goal of why we are all here, and until we realize that, we're going to keep coming back again and again. Because we're searching for the ultimate happiness. We search for it through our senses, it doesn't get us anywhere. We search for it through our mind, we search for it through relationships, we search for it through every means possible, it doesn't get us there. But that search will end when you find that you are that source. You are the God you are seeking. You are the master that you are worshipping. You are that Sai. Discipline, I think, is a very core of spirituality. I don't know what it means to you. I'm not going to tell you what it means to you. I'm not going to tell you to get up in the morning or eat this food or that food. I think each one of us has to find for ourselves. Like I said, it's a unique path for us. Ask yourself. I ask myself every morning, what does discipline mean to me today? And I follow it. And I find my definitions of these words changing. And as my perceptions grow and change, my definitions keep changing. I learn more and more about what discipline meant to me. But anytime I want to waver, anytime I want to relax, anytime I feel tired, I just only look back and think of one person who never got tired, who never wavered from his path. Which is why you have these masters walk once in 1,000 years. Because you get some people like this only once in 1,000 years. That's why you give them the status of an avatar, an incarnation. You say, oh my gosh, this has to be a supreme being. But the Supreme Being comes and takes birth as a human being. Why? So that we put him back in one big picture and say, "Hey, you are Supreme Being, I am just an ordinary person, let me go catch my TV shows." No, he is coming and living as a human being so you can live the way he did. And that's why even Jesus has said, I can't quote this palm, which was in the New Testament, but he says, you can do things like I did and do much more if you believe in what I believe. If we believe, we have the capacity, even an iota of capacity, what Swami, the way he looked at the world, then we can do what Swami did. What that means, I don't know. But you will be able to touch people's heart. You will be able to sanctify your life in a way that the life becomes much more meaningful to us. Otherwise, we get caught up in one meaningless, repetitive way of life. It is, in Bhaja Govindam, and I'll sing that in a few minutes. One of my favorite stanzas is how Adi Shankara, catches a Pandit who's sitting on the banks. This is thousands of years ago. Adi Shankara was one of the greatest intellectuals India has ever known. And he's walking and he sees a Pandit meaninglessly chanting something. And he says, "Wake up, what are you going to be chanting? And your rosary beads are not going to get you anywhere until you fill your heart with love. Feel the name of God, chant the name of God." Bhaja Govindam means chant the name of God. In the sense, feel that. Chanting is not to be taken in the literal sense. My understanding of that is more where the name of God becomes constant. Your mind is possessed with that all the time. You're all the time thinking about it, thinking about God. And therefore, you become, this is Bhaja Govindam. Govindam is symbolic again of divinity. Think of divinity all the time, not meaningless chants, and grammar is not going to get you anywhere. But the inner meaning of that whole story is the meaningless grammar that you and I are engaged in every day. I ask myself, I get up in the morning, I brush the same way, the toothpaste has to be in the same place. If it's moved somewhere, I'll ask, who moved this toothpaste? And it has to come in the same way. Try switching and brushing your hand with the left hand one day. You'll think the whole world has changed. It's new, man, today. What's new? No, you're just holding a brush in the left hand, that's all it is. Try soaping your body with the left hand, or trying to take the first step, the flight of stairs, say I have to start with my left foot. Suddenly you'll find, where was I? Suddenly you've come into the moment, being in the moment, if you will, is mindfulness, that's what it's called. And that is missing in our lives, because we have taken so many things for granted. We just live our life. We shower, we eat food, and yes, the menu changes, but then the eating habits don't change. We go to work, come back. So what has happened is we have got caught up in this ritual. Everybody is doing this ritual. We got caught up in this ritual that the body demands, and we, without knowing, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, wow, suddenly we realize you're too old. And therefore, Adi Shankara says, break this endless journey into a bundle of desires, and believe that finding God is your purpose, true purpose in life. I just want to share this beautiful anecdote, and then I'll sing this song because it's so relevant here. We were sitting around Baba's feet in Vrindavan, and this was an old Vrindavan before what you see now. It was his old private bungalow some devotee had given him. And he was sitting outside in the concrete, there was a concrete road where the drive, and there were cracks in the concrete. And between where the concrete ended and the wall started, there was a big crack. Anyway, we were sitting on the concrete because Swami was waiting for his new car to come. Swami said, "My new car is coming, come, let's all sit in the driveway." So we're all waiting in the driveway. He becomes a 5-year-old suddenly. Somebody had given him a Jaguar and he came. And he was really like a 5-year-old. He went inside, he sat through that. There's a moon roof, he slid it and stood outside and said, "Hey, see." So it was very sweet for Swami to watch Swami. And that's it, that was only 5 minutes. Like the kid loses interest after 5 minutes. He did Gir Darshan, he said, that was the end of it. But that afternoon I learned another lesson, other than that, was when we sat around Swami, we were waiting for it, we were sitting, and Swami was talking something, I don't remember what it was, but then suddenly his attention fell on a black ant that was crawling past. And so I was sitting in the front, so I looked at what Swami was watching, and he kept quiet. He started watching, and everybody kept quiet, wondering what Swami was watching. I was in the front, I saw this, he was eyeing this little black ant, the carpenter ant, the one we worship as Ganesha, the rest we kill mercilessly. This black ant went like this, with that, with a small little grass or something, I don't know what it had in its mouth. It was struggling to carry it. and going slowly. Every time it dropped, it would pick up and go. And it was very intelligent, and it was trying to go back to its home with the crack between the concrete and the wall and go inside. So as Swami was watching his son, he said, "Papam, and the luggage తీసుకొని పోతుంది చూడు మీలాగనే." So just like you, how much luggage it is trying to carry. See, poor thing. Just like you only. Your degree. And Swami said, let me tell this in Telugu. Degreelu, చదువులు, డబ్బులు, అయ్యో ఇది కావాలా, అది కావాలా, అంతా luggage తీసుకొని పోతుంది. What he meant was your degrees, your education, your title, all that what we are searching for to add on. He's saying all this, look at this, this poor thing is trying to struggle. So we were wondering, and then he was also waiting to see where this ant went. So he went right to the edge, and the ant was trying to go in and take the grass and go inside. I think it was a piece of grass, actually. Probably not a grass, it was something else. And it was going inside that, and it tried its best, and after a while it gave it and went in. And then the moment it went in and he left this little piece of, maybe a piece of sugar cane or something. He left it out. Swami said, "Chudu, yellitappudu emra teeskoni potaru." So look at that. When you leave, what are you going to take? You're going to leave everything behind. All this struggle that you struggle to carry this, you have to leave and go. When you go, what are you going to take? What are you going to take with you when you go? So let me share this. I'm singing in She Sharp, so feel free to. Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Modamati. Oh foolish one, just chant the name of Govinda. See, Swami makes it very easy for us. He says, I know this is all philosophical, you don't understand it. Just chant the name of God, start from that. It's given us the simplest thing for Kali Yuga, or this particular age consciousness where technology will rule. This is predicted in the Vedas. They call it the Iron Age, steel and industry, where steel would rule, which meant steel means science and technology. It's a symbolic thing. So they knew this age will be like that. And they said, in this age, you just start with chanting the name of God, with constant remembrance. That will motivate you and sustain you. Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudamate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi Rakshati Dukhim Karane, Nahi Rakshati Dukhim Karane, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. Muda Jani Dhanagama Krishna, Muda Jani Dhanagama Krishna. Give up this eternal desire to accumulate. Give up this eternal desire. Muda Jani Dhanagama Krishna, Guru Sadbuddhim Manasi Krishna, Yallabhase Nija Karmopatam, Yallabhase Nija Karmopatam, Vittam Tena Vinodaya Chetam, Vittam Tena Vinodaya Chetam, Krishna Rama, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Krishna Rama Govinda, Gokula Nandana Gopala, Krishna Rama Krishna Govinda, Jai Vrindavana Gopala, Krishna Govinda, Jai Vrindavana Gopala, Hari Krishna Govinda, Jai Vrindavana Gopala, Hari Krishna Govinda, just the name of Rama, the name of Krishna, the name of Sai. It's all we need. If things don't make sense to us, just start chanting, singing. I do that all the time, and after a while things start clearing. The head clears. It's amazing how it happens. The next D that I saw in Swami was the power of discrimination. Swami was very clear about his priorities when he attempted or when he went to do something. He was very clear about it. If you look at it, and I'm sure it's still too early, I think we need a historian a couple of centuries down the line who's not thinks, we call it thinking out of the box. Somebody who's not into it will look at it freshly from historical and analyze Swami's mission in a much more clearer way. But even now, if I look back, Swami's life seems to be in phases. There was the time where he spent a lot of time with just devotees roaming around, laughing, and he would be out in the ashram. There was no timings for darshan. Anytime he would come out, and there are devotees here who experienced that firsthand. And so there was that time, but then there was this phase of education. There was a whole decade he dedicated to the 80s, where it was all about setting colleges, institutions, focusing on students and setting them on that. Once he set that wheel in motion, then he switched. In the 90s, 91, 92, started the hospital. I mean, when it actually happened there, it just looks like coincidence or something is just going on, because you're caught up in the nitty-gritties, you don't know the bigger picture. But when you look back, it's like 91, 92, he started the medicine, the health, the institution, setting up that institution, focusing completely on that. And then came the Vedic chants in the 2000s. He started reviving the Vedas, just as he had promised when he was young, that before I go, all this will happen. And so, it was, even when Swami took up the water project, it was completely, when he takes up something, he'll be completely focused on that. And he had his priorities very clean, very clear. The discrimination was amazing. And I think that came from a sense of clarity of vision. He had a vision of what he wanted. He never compromised on it. He never compromised on the vision of what he wanted. He never said, yeah, that is great, but let's be practical. Let's settle down something more practical. After all, I'm just a villager from Puttaparthi. I mean, I have to do something. It would have been so easy for him to compromise. He didn't compromise on the clarity of vision. This is my vision. This is where I want. This is what I want. And I'll give you an example of this. When the hospital was being built, there was this team of engineers who were from L&T, Larsen and Toubro. Now these are really one of the top Indian engineers, construction engineers. They've built mammoth projects in India and abroad. And they have been called to build this hospital. And they had a blueprint that they made, their vision. So I said, yeah, let's see, big shots, let them do something, then we'll see. So they made a beautiful blueprint of the building, and they brought it to Swami to show it to him. And I was there and witnessed this small little incident. So there's a dining table, they spread it on the table, and it's a huge sheet, big, maybe about 4 feet by 3 feet wide. It was a huge one. They opened it, and we were all amazed. We all saw it at a distance, of course, but we were like, wow, that's awesome. A great building is going to come up and all that. So here comes this 8th grader down the staircase. Now, and around this are standing all these engineers. Like I said, they're not devotees of Baba. They just done their job. Really, they're just waiting for a word of appreciation or a few suggestions or a discussion on to how this can be improved. That's how you engage people, right? So Swami comes down and he's on way for darshan. That's why everybody's waiting. Swami would meet them, spend some time, then probably go out for darshan or decide to spend time with them. Nobody knew that. Swami came down. As he was coming down, he looked at that, he smiled at them very sweetly, and he said, that is building, it's not temple. Parvalil, it's okay. He didn't even go and see what have you done. Oh, okay. Is it possible to have a dome? What do you think? No such thing. It is not, it's a building, it's not a temple. I want a temple. And he walked off for darshan. So Colonel Jogaran and others were with Swami, they were like, they looked at these engineers, don't worry, calm down. They felt embarrassed, we felt embarrassed. We were like, Swami, please, these are big shots here. Don't just, but that's who Swami was. It's just a small, there are hundreds of incidents like this, but that's a very small incident. How his clarity was so, he had such a clear vision of what he wanted. He didn't even have time to spend for anything less than that. He probably spent time later explaining to them what he wanted, but at that moment, he just looked at it and said, no, that's not what it is. I need a dome. He insisted on a huge dome in the center. And it is there today. Today it's a testimonial. It's actually really a temple of healing. People look at that and I guess they get healed. That's why they have such fantastic success rates there, I think. Because he wanted it that way. That clarity, that amazing clarity, I think was not because he was divine. Swami told us many, many times, if I cut my hand and if blood flows out, I will say stop and go back, it will go back. But then he looked back and then he said, Endu Tevsa. We said, duh, we know why. Because it was Swami. Kadu. Me kuda da cheyochu. You can also do. You believe not. You believe that you cannot. Ante. You believe you cannot, I believe I can. That's all. And that belief comes from because you are associating yourself with your body. I am associating myself with the Atman. And therefore I believe I can do it. Because Atman has no limit. The spirit has no limit. But you think you're the body and therefore you find I can do this, I cannot do that. I think that's a fantastic teaching. So we need to ask ourselves every time I see I, what am I saying I? Am I referring to this body? And when are the moments I can refer to my spirit? Times of prayer, times of meditation, times of satsang like this, we touch that part. We seek to awaken that part of ourselves. So discrimination is again a very beautiful concept which Swami taught. And I'm reminded of a story I read on the internet recently. Somebody passed it around. It's not Swami's story, but I think it's worthwhile sharing it here because it talks about how one treats situations in life and how you can look at different things differently. So here's a story of this lady goes to her mother and she's got a lot of things going on in her life. She's full of complaints and her mother is very patient. And the mother is cooking and this girl reaches her and she's constantly, complaining. And she watches her mother apparently indifferent. The mother is taking out a couple of eggs and mother is taking out a carrot and then she's taking out some coffee beans and putting it on the water bowl and she's putting the eggs to boil and she's taking the carrot and putting it in the water. She says, Mom, are you listening? I'm telling you all my problems and you're busy cooking. Then the mother turns to her and says, tell me one thing. Are you an egg? Are you a carrot or are you a coffee bean? And she says, what? Have you been listening to me or what? What do you mean I'm not a carrot or... She said, no, tell me. Are you a carrot? Are you an egg? Or are you a coffee bean? And the girl says, what do you mean? She says, look at the carrot. It's hard and strong, full of what I know. This is who I am. This is what the world is. Mountains are mountains, rivers are rivers. This is what it is all about. 2 plus 2 is always 4. But then when I put it in the boiling waters of life, it comes off soft. Oh, and this life is very hard, Baba. I have also been in your age. I also was asking all these questions. It is very difficult to live all this. You become soft. You lose your motivation to live. You just carry on with life. You think, this is too difficult. I can't live. Let's go along with the life. And so you compromise everything. You believe you go with the crowd. The carrot becomes soft. Because the hard waters of life taught it lessons. Look at the egg, she said. The egg was soft, could break any moment, it was fragile. It went into the boiling waters of life and it came out hard. There is no God, I'm convinced. This is all, life is tough, and so he became more and more conditioned in his thinking. He was not open to any more learning, he closed himself. So I know, I have suffered enough, I have been in the wars, you don't know what it is, life is. You become, because your life teaches you that. And she said, are you a coffee bean? What happens to a coffee bean? She said the coffee bean goes and changes the very water that boils it. Changes the very water that boils. It doesn't come out good or bad. It sits there and changes the water. It was plain water, but now there's aroma, which is why I started drinking coffee, by the way. Changes the aroma. Can you believe how powerful the story is? It changes the very aroma of the water which was boiling it. So the very circumstance that is burning you out can be considered a blessing and can be turned around. That very circumstance where people thought Swami was possessed and they tried to put him down, he used that very village, the same circumstance, he turned it around and made that as a super center. So we need to ask ourselves, are we running away from circumstances, or are we accepting the circumstances and using that very circumstance, that very person, or whatever it is in our life that is causing us to go through this boiling water at any time, can we change that? Can we change that? How powerful can that be? I think that comes out of discrimination. The ability to discriminate, the ability to have clear vision. To me, that comes out of through meditation. It really helps to calm your body and pay attention to this divine temple that we have taken upon ourselves. We have earned this. The Vedas say that we have earned it through millions of lifetimes. The fact, in yoga there are talk of different chakras. I'm not going to get into a lecture of that. And the only point I want to emphasize is the mind, for 99% of the people, and it's not by means of judging people, it's more as a matter of fact, that for 99% of the people, the mind operates on the lower centers of consciousness. What does that mean? The lowest center is all about instinct to survive. Food, clothing, shelter. Oh, I need it. Your mind is constantly survival. You're always scared. How do I pay the next month's bill? Whatever it is, right? So you're caught up in that. And then once you get that, the mind then comes to the next center of consciousness, where it's catering to sensuality. I want something good to taste. It's no longer hunger now. You give him the bread, he'll say, I want some jam in it. So hunger is satisfied, now senses come into play. So I want something to feel, something nice to touch, something nice to see, something nice to listen. So our senses, our mind is constantly caught up in the senses. Once you do that, then the stomach is where we look for socialization, we look for relationships. And then your mind comes to the heart where you're dealing with emotions. So once you have a relationship, always there is love, hate, right? Ups and downs. So the mind centers around emotions. So they say 99% of the people live in just these four centers. Life just goes on within these four centers of consciousness. But then comes the higher chakras, which is a blessing you have earned through many lifetimes. Being born again and again, searching for this again and again. We've evolved to a point where we are now sitting here spending a whole weekend where you could have otherwise taken a nice afternoon siesta, whatever it was. Why are we here? None of these four centers are operating now. The operation is higher center. We are awakening a different level of consciousness, attempting to awaken higher different centers of consciousness. And therefore the divinity starts from there. And so and Swami said for ladies it's always very beautiful. And not in this context, it just came to my mind, I would share it. Swami said for the ladies it starts from here, always. That's why in the yoga, for men, it's always projected for men, all the kundalini and all that. They never talk to ladies. You know why? He said it's not because they didn't want ladies to practice. He said ladies don't need to practice. Because of the mother that is there in a lady, her heart chakra, she can easily open her heart chakra and work upwards. She doesn't need any of the lower chakras. She's already evolved. So this is a lucky side of the hall. That's why I'm having the good side, the bright side of the hall. But anyway, that is a point, I don't know why I made it, but it just came to my mind. The point is that awakening has to happen. And that comes through discrimination. You have to find that time. It could be through prayer, it could be through meditation, it could be through simply chanting constantly the name. I don't know what it is, but find a time to sit down. What is it that I want in life? We need that clarity in our lives. We sometimes take it for granted, and then before we realize life passes very fast. And before we realize youth is gone, and middle age comes, and we're caught up in something, and kids are born, and something happens, and oh, I'm 75. And then Swami says, then it's too late for you to start practicing spirituality. Because then your senses are weak, your intellect is weak, and you're too rigid in your thinking. The neurons have already started firing. There's no strength left in you to fire neurons in a different direction. They just trigger. And Adi Shankara shares this beautiful. Yavad vittu parjana saktah stavan nija parivaror generation will say, they'll put you away. Nobody want to deal with you. Your own senses won't want to deal with you. That time, don't think you can start chanting. So chant the name of God now. Begin the spiritual path now. Yavadvito Parjana Sakta Stavan Nija Parivaro Rata Yavadvito Parjana Sakta Stavan Nija Parivaro Rata Asya Jivati Jarjane Vata Kopina The next D that I find in Swami is determination. It's amazing how Swami stuck to his mission. Like it's almost like it follows as a pattern of discipline. Swami he would never waver, but and I ask myself these questions every day. And the reason why I'm sharing this is I think in satsangs like these, especially now that the Master is not with us physically, it's more important that we take time to analyze these teachings, analyze his life and learn from that and inculcate and try to see how we can sanctify our lives. I can share beautiful stories of how Swami performed our wedding with Maya and all that. It's nice, but what will you take home from that really, other than the fact that, oh, Sunder Iyer had a great time? And I think I'll miss my point. I think these are the things which is benefiting me in my life. And these are the true values, these are true treasures that I discovered at Swami's feet. And this is what I want to share. So bear with me if some of this sounds too philosophical. I think I'm trying my best to bring in Swami stories in it too, but I think it's very crucial for us to understand and appreciate this is what the avatar stood for. This is what this Master stood for. This is how he lived his life. This is how he wanted to set an example so that we could follow that. These are the values that he lived by. So when I saw the amount of determination in Swami's life, it was amazing. I've never seen Swami in a wheelchair, but I've seen Swami not well before physically. Like it will appear that he's having temperature, is running high fever, and his eyes will be red. And I remember one afternoon, my friend and I, we were sitting and pressing Swami's feet, and Swami's eyes were red, and he was sniffing, and constantly every 2 minutes he'd take his kerchief and he'd do this, and we could see that Swami was not comfortable at all, and he was constantly looking at the clock, like, I have to go for darshan now, it's time. So it was 2:45, 3:15, 3:30, and that was the time Swami will get up, go have a quick wash, and then get ready for darshan. So he was looking at the clock now and then my friend, he had a little more freedom with Swami, I guess. So he said, Swami, Swami said, what? Swami, don't go for darshan, Swami, you're not well. Swami, please take rest. He said, Swami, please take rest. Immediately Swami looked at us and said, look behind me. Look behind me. and we looked behind. There was a clock on the wall, a little clock right in front of Swami. There was always a small clock above the lights. We looked at the clock and he said, which of these is the most important hand? You know, there are different hands in the clock, right? The needles, you call it hand. Which of this is the most important? So we looked at it and, I thought the biggest hand is so big things are important, right? The more powerful, the more rich, the more bigger, whatever, the big needle. So I said, Swami, not the big hand. There's a little hand you can't even see. Second hand. Every second it is moving. If that stops, everything stops. And then he said, again sniffing in middle, he said, I am that second hand. I cannot stop. Now keep it a rest. Where is rest for me? Satya Dharma Shanti, Prema Satya Dharma Shanti. Day in life. I will not stop spreading the values. It was so amazing to feel that depth of conviction, the depth of commitment that he had to his mission. That is why, in spite of all these so-called controversies and whatever came, internet or newspaper and blah blah whatever, nobody could go after a point. There's nothing. They are nothing. It is vaporized, because in the presence of that energy, everything will vaporize, because that was pure truth. There was pure truth right there, living day in and day out. Completely focused. I don't care what you say. I will do it. There was once Mr. V.K. Narasimhan, Professor Narasimhan asked Swami. He was then the editor of The Hindu. The Hindu is one of the national newspapers, and I think it is there even today, one of the leading newspapers in India. And so he was the chief editor, really big position. So he said, Swami, just tell me yes, and I will publish an article, I'll publish a series of articles in the newspaper about you. Because people are just talking, we can't bear it to see media and others talk. This was days even before all this internet and all. This was in the early 80s. And beautifully Swami looked at him and smiled, and so knowingly, so peaceful he was. He said, when my birthday function comes, and then Sai Gita walks all the way, because Sai Gita would, was always stationed in Gokulam. Sai Gita is Swami's elephant. He said Sai Gita would walk all the way down, fully decorated. She walks down the road to meet me. And when she walks down the road, all the street dogs bark at her. The Sai Gita stop and say, don't bark at me, I'm an elephant, I'm big, I'm going for a good work, I'm going to serve Sai Baba, don't bark at me. Their nature is to bark, the elephant's nature is to ignore. So, that moment I saw what a perspective he had of himself. He's like, that I don't have time for that. I'm so focused in my mission that I will continue to do good no matter what. And look at Jesus' life. He never stopped to explain, he never tried to correct the wrong words. He said, you do it. You hit me on one cheek, you have to hit me on the other if that pleases you. He allowed people to crucify him. My God, what a great sacrifice that was. But in that sacrifice lay the awakening of so many millions of people. It's amazing. In that sacrifice of Swami every day, in that determination, that commitment, he energized people. That's why there are very few masters. I don't even know if there's somebody who can inspire devotee's heart thousands of miles away. Forget vibhuti materializations and idols, that's really nothing. The ability to change somebody's heart, the ability to touch somebody's heart across the globe, millions of miles away, and those people or those person may not even have seen Baba, must have just heard of him, and something touches within them. He is touching it. He is touching it. And that ability was divine. And I think that divinity, that power to reach out came from this center of sheer determination to do what I've come to do. Nothing compromised. I'm amazed at how Swami never compromised in what he believed, what he was. Never compromised. He will say, even if, tell us once, in some 80s something happened, some students left Swami and all that. And he called a few of us and he said, even if I have 5 people left in my ashram, I will not change who I am. I will not change who I am. And he was powerful that day. I will not change who I am. Even if I have 5 devotees, I'm happy. I will not change who I am. So that was the energy. He believed in himself more than you and I. If there was somebody who had the greatest confidence in himself, it is him. He believed he had purpose in life. He believed he was, I say believe, no, I think knowing is probably a better word. But forgive my use of the words here. But he knew what he was. And that nothing could change that. And that gave that sense of determination. So anytime I seem to waver in my path, in my own life, in whatever I decide to do, I always think of that. Why am I wavering? What is the reason? Such a silly reason I'm going to compromise what I believe. No, it's not worth it. And I always find people come around and appreciate what I do. They always do. But once the moment I start compromising to please somebody, then it's a never-ending series of compromise. I eat because I want to fit socially, I drink because I want to fit socially, I buy furnitures in my house because I want to fit in socially, my altar in my house is because I want to fit in socially. What will others think when they come to see Swami's altar? I'm like, it's your altar. Right? No, others should also like. So for others' sake, everything is for others' sake. What is for you? And there's a very nice comment I always remember. At the age of, and I don't know who it is, I think it's George Bernard Shaw, I could be wrong. So there's a quote, it says, at 20, you don't care what others think. At 20, you don't care what others think. At 40, you're always worried about what others think. At 80, you realize others were not thinking about you at all. At 80, you realize others were not thinking about you at all. It's not, really nobody has time to think about somebody else. It is we who imagine. And we, even recently, I had a simple, it was a very small thing, but it taught me a great lesson. I was invited to do a kirtan with Americans, and I went dressed in jeans and t-shirt, because I thought, how can I wear Indian kurta pajama? I mean, what do they think? I mean, I walked in, the first thing the lady organized, she said, where is your Indian dress? We want to see you in your Indian dress. And I felt so ashamed. I'm like here preaching to the whole world and I'm doing exactly what it is. So I quickly went, and luckily it was local, so I went, changed and came, and so that is what I'm trying to say. People are really not thinking about what we imagine most of it. Most of it is in our imagination, and we compromise. But I saw in Swami that I don't compromise on my values. Period. That's it. This is what I believe, this is what it will be. And this is how, that determination saw him through things. I mean, when the university, we talked about this date, November 22nd, 1981, was our first convocation. A few months before that I told you, the building was hardly built and ready, and just getting ready. And the physics labs were still getting ready. The bioscience laboratories were getting ready. And Swami is asking the education experts in the ashram, the registrar, and Professor Gokak is one of the leading educationalists in India, right? So he was the first vice chancellor, and Swami is asking him, what is it, very innocently, what does it take to make a university? What does it take? Oh, Swami, that is, we have to have, physics laboratories, and we should have laser technology, something they threw. I was there at that time. And they said bioscience laboratories have to be done, Swami, we are not there yet. And then the number of colleges that needs to be affiliated has to be more. And the number of students that are studying, and otherwise it's only a college, it cannot become a university. They had all these explanations. Then Swami said, then what? Then does somebody who says does the government say yes, if you get, who says you are the university? Very simple, like, as if like villager, like he's asking these questions. And we all flow with it, we all get carried away when Swami does it so innocently. So who does it? Oh Swami, there's a University Grants Commission. Adiyenti commission ante come for tea, yeah. No. Swami will always joke, this committee is come for tea. Nobody does any work. So Swami said, what is this commission? Swami, that's a group of educationalists and leading educators from all over the country. And they will go inspect the campuses and colleges and all, and they will decide whether to grant. I did Pilchu, call them. So I remember this moment, because when Swami said, yeah, call them. Why don't you call them? And then He shrugged his shoulders. Swami cleared his throat. Like, you didn't hear me the first time. So he said, Swami, no Swami, first we had to get college ready, and the ifs and the buts, like I tell you. He had placed all the ifs and the buts as to why we are too early to make it a university. Swami said, yeah, I understood all that. You call them. They can come and see me. They can come and see the place, there's nothing wrong. They came, they saw, they got conquered. Nobody knows how. I mean, how many palms you have to grease in India to get an electricity in your home? People from India know that, right? The first time I came out from Puttaparthi ashram, I thought everything is beautiful out in the world, but that was after 15 years from Bombay to, and then I come out and I realized that you don't, the postman, the telephone man who installed the telephone in my house said, give me something, sir. I said, why? You did your job, now why should I give you something? He went out, he put the ladder, went up and cut that wire. He said, now sir, go complain, you'll see. So that is how it happened in India. So how difficult it is to get a telephone in your home. This was in Chennai, by the way. So how difficult it is to get a telephone line in your home. And here is Baba sitting and telling, get me the topmost educators, let's see, let them come, I will talk to them. Where does that confidence come from? I was like, oh, sorry. And I asked myself, where does he get this confidence? Why can't I have that confidence? It was amazing to see that confidence. Call them. Why? I'm doing a selfless work. For him, that fearlessness came from, well, I'm not doing it for myself, I'm doing selfless work. I'm doing something great. He was proud of what he was doing. And he said, let him come, let them see what I'm doing, what we are doing. Let them, maybe they have never done this before, let it be the first time. Why do we wait somewhere else the first time? Why can't this be the first time? I don't know what went on in Swami's mind, but they came, they saw, and they went to the tour, they were all there, and they went into the interview room, they came out, and then Swami came to a bhajan, faced again back like a 5-year-old. They're going to make it to university. You're going to get a degree in Sai University. On a university, you get a degree. It was like, wow, we were very happy. But that thrill came after enormous amount of determination. I think that is what Adi Shankara shares in this beautiful. The reason I share these six stanzas I share as part of the 60s is because these 6 were the Bhajagovindam verses, which we put it in a drama, in a play in front of Swami. And Swami loved these 6 verses so much, he took us for a tour and to India, to Bombay, to Bangalore and all that. So he just loved this. And each of these verses, I was privileged to write this. After my snake bite incident, I was in the hospital for a month, so I was sitting and writing this play. And then Swami called us, and every time he would explain the meaning behind each of these verses, and they were so profound. So even doing a play with Swami was all learning, a lot of learning with Swami. And there's the meaning of this, the stanza is, Ma Kuru Dhanajana Yovana Gauram. What are you proud of with your youth and vitality and your money and all that? Everything is so transient that will just go off. So don't be there, just worship the name of Govinda. I think when if we make our mind, a determined mind, stay focused on God and keep God as the center of our lives and let everything revolve around it. I know it may not make sense. I don't mean to make sense here. I'm just throwing open ideas for you to think. Just as I continue to think and I'm learning, I'm very much part of you. I'm not taking a high pedestal to preach. But when I start thinking, how can I make God center, it first doesn't make sense. Because right now I'm in the center of my life. Everything revolves around me. Where is east to? East is to where I stand from. East is this side. From where you stand, east is that side. Because we're all relating to the world as it revolves around us. But if we turn around and make God the center, then I want to watch all my activities that revolve around God. What are my activities? And why are some of the activities, if they don't revolve, what can I make it to revolve? What can I make God? How can I make Him the center of my life? How can my routine, my job, everything revolve around the values I learned and I want to really learn? And believe me, the universe will come pouring to help you. It will come pouring out of the way. The impossible things will be made possible. We heard it in the Bible, we hear it in the Gita, we hear it in every Purana and every story of every saint and sage. And it is true even today. Each one of us can make the most impossible things possible if we start being determined. That will divine will starts exhibiting itself through us. Ma kuru dhana jana yauvana garvam. Ma kuru dhana jana yauvana garvam. Harati nimesha kala sarvam. Harati nimesha kala sarvam. Maya mayamidam akilam vidva. From discipline to discrimination to determination. The fourth amazing quality that I saw in Swami, and I'll end with that today. It's 10 to 4. Gopi, do I have, how much time do I have? 4:15?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. It's dangerous, don't give me that time. The amazing quality of detachment. Detachment is a gift that is given to you when you have discrimination and determination aligned in your life. I think detachment comes automatically. Detachment is not something we can practice. You cannot practice detachment. Trust me, the more you, well again, this is just my opinion, I could be wrong here, but if I tell you, close your eyes and think of any animal, but please don't think of a camel. What is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? You're going to think only of a camel. So you can't practice detachment. You're going to say, I'm going to give up watching TV. You guess what? Your TV will be on top most of your mind. Whether you watch it or don't is immaterial. The fact that you're possessed with it in your mind is what matters. So detachment comes, it has to come naturally. It's a gift, it's a grace that falls. The fact that we have given up this afternoon to spend time here is a sign of detachment. It's a sign of detachment. So with Swami it was amazing how on the one side, because determination and detachment appear a little conflict at one point. You're determined to do what you want. How can you yet to be detached? Then if I'm detached, where's determination come from? But the beauty is understanding the secret behind it. You know what makes Shah Rukh Khan, I don't like him, let's stick to Amitabh Bachchan. I'm honest. What makes Amitabh Bachchan is a Bollywood actor. So what makes him a very good actor? What makes him a very good actor? How come he is able to play all these roles? Kamala Hassan, for example. How is he able to play all these roles? You know why? Because when he's playing the role, he's detached to the role. He knows he's acting it. Imagine if he's attached to the role. He would be in a psychiatric ward. If he really thinks he is poor, or if he really thinks he's madly in love with one rich lady, or whatever the stories are, like crazy, and all of them end up crying anyway. So whatever, if they attach themselves to the role that they are playing, if they think they are that, they cannot be a good actor. Think of a surgeon. There are surgeons here, I'm sure. A surgeon does the operation. You don't know why they don't allow the surgeons to do, not that they don't allow, but they don't encourage surgeons to operate on their own kid and kin or their daughter. You know why? Because their attachment comes. And when there's attachment, you're like, oh my God, I hope nothing goes wrong. Fear comes. But when you're detached, you're able to perform better. So when you're detached with your child and you know that this child is a gift from God, I have to do it in a detached way, you will perform better than when you're attached. You perform better your role in life when you're detached. You become more determined in your life because you're detached. Do I make sense? It makes perfect sense to me. And I saw Swami in that role. He was detached. He knew he was playing this. It was a matter of play for him. Ultimately, when he would close his eyes and do this, I don't know what went on, but I would imagine, for him this is just a play. I wish I can be there. And once Swami asked me, because I asked him the meaning of Samadhi, he said, Samadhi. This fellow wants meaning of Samadhi. But I was sitting with Kishan Lal and Bhiman, you know, the two gymnastics teachers. So, Swami turned to me and he said, you know, when you come and run and do that palti, you used to call it palti. Palti chesta kada, appudu eme alasutta. What do you think when you're doing that palti in the air? Meaning a flip. I would come running and I used to jump up and do a flip in the air and land on the ground. So when I was doing the flip, what do you think? And I said, Swami, I'm thinking I have to land on my feet. He said, no, all that you're thinking when you're running to do it. When you're doing the flip, what you're thinking? I looked at Swami. What do you mean? Actually, when I'm doing it so fast, at that moment I just looked at him. Swami said, no thought. I said, yes, Swami, no thought. That is Samadhi. And no thought. You become one with what you're doing. You become one. If you're thinking, you will fall down and break your nose. You're landing on your feet because there is no thought. You become one. And of course, he had to add this. He said, for you it is 1 second, for me it is 24/7. I had to say that. For me it is all the time I'm there. Can you imagine what would that mean? So for me, seeing Swami as a human being was more miraculous. How many times are we caught up in what we are doing and we don't have time for our child, and you yell at somebody and say, please take care of her, or whatever it is, I'm in the middle of a project, I'm doing something, I ask my wife, can you please take our doggy for a walk? I don't have time for this today. How many times we don't have time because we think we're doing something big. Look at him, he's in that state, and yet he comes down and asks, have you had food? Why were you coughing? What's your name? He's out behaving like a human being. Being in that state is to me the greatest miracle. It's almost impossible for my mind to comprehend, how can you do that, be there and do this? How can you be normal? He wasn't normal in that sense, but still, for him to do what he did, to speak like in a language we could understand, tell us stories that we could understand, was what an amazing amount of, how is that even possible for somebody to be there and here? But yet it is possible. Anoranyan Mahaprabhu. That's why the Vedas say that divinity exists in the tiniest of the tiny and in the largest of the large. It is possible. It is possible. This impossible is in our imagination. It is possible. An example which I mentioned in one of my soldiers' interviews, and many of you heard this, but it's worth repeating here, is like how Swami would pay attention to the smallest detail. He came to a drama before the convocation. He came to see the drama. So that's on 21st November. And you can imagine how busy he will be when hundreds and thousands of people are in ashram, the guests and VIPs and everybody. So he's coming, first of all he's taking time to see our play for the final time, and he's very excited. He says, good, practice, and tomorrow everything is set. And then as he was walking into his car, I was standing by the car door thinking if Swami had some last minute instructions or something, I'd like to be there. So I made myself available. Swami looked at me and there was a small hole in the shirt here, at this place. And he looked at it and said, "Chi, chi, chi," and he poked his hand. Too careless, he did like that. And of course he sat in his car and just smiled sheepishly and was happy Swami did something with me, and at least he was not happy. There was nothing upsetting Swami. All that. I didn't even give it a second thought. Other than the fact that, Swami did something fine, I ignored it. Next day morning, it's 22nd. And he's coming out with darshan. There is the President of India and all these people sitting. He comes out with darshan with a small brown envelope in his hand. Iyer ekkada? Iyer ekkada? Iyer ekkada. So he always called me by my last name, which I never liked. But Iyer, because Iyer reminds me of, I don't know, some Brahmin with a reminds me of that thread ceremony guru. Iyer ekkada. So I just knelt up because I was there, luckily, and I knelt up. Swami just flung that towards me and said, "There is a cloth in that shirt." And he walked off a darshan. I said, "What shirt? What is it?" I looked at it and then it struck me, oh my God, yesterday saw that small hole. So for me, having been in Swami's room, I know he would have gone, opened his cupboard, picked that up, put it in a cover, brought it down with him. There was no assistant for somebody to do all that. He would have done on his own. And for me, it struck me, why would such a small thing? It wasn't like I was naked on the street or something. Just a small little thing, but that small little imperfection bothered Swami. On his birthday, he wanted everything perfect like that. Whatever it was, that quality to have afforded that time and space for me, for no reason. And I'm not saying this because I was something special in Swami's eyes. Please don't get the wrong impression here. I want to tell you how there are so many students with so many stories like this. It's mind-boggling. But for me at that point, I was like, why would he even take that time to do such a small thing when he has such mammoth things going on his birthday? But that is divinity. To me, that was a sign of divinity. Only a person steeped in divinity can do these kind of things. Otherwise, he's normal. Because I can relate to anything else. I don't have time for this. He always had time for it. When he picked up a sari for my mother, he asked the authorities inside, "Swami, Sunder Iyer's mother is my skin color. Do you think the sari color will suit her?" Why would he ask them? They came and told, "Hey, you're lucky, your father is doing some puja, special puja." Why? I said, "Why?" The Swami asked this. I was very touched. So for him giving a sari, he could have picked up any sari. Or you could have asked somebody else, "Yeah, take some sari and give it to that mad guy's mom." I don't know, we didn't donate any, no money we donated, nothing we did. I mean, anything logically that you would ascribe to some act of this of Swami, nothing. It was only pure love. That act of giving for him was always important. Anything in his room was important for us. When people would give saris and there are tons of things people donate, he will open each one and explain, keep it safe, keep it safe, keep it safe, keep it in his room. People say, "Oh, when Sai Baba went, this was found in his room, that was found in his room." That was Swami, that was his nature. When people would give him, like you go and give your dad a gift, he would say, "Yeah, put it in the fridge. I'll come and see it later." You'll feel hurt. But suppose he takes and keeps it next to his bed. You'll say, "Oh my gosh, he loves it, he keeps it with him." That's what Swami did with every gift, no matter what it was. He said, "He's given it to me, keep it." You don't know how much feeling they have when they give it to me. And he would treat it with respect. He would expect us to, we would keep it clean. It wasn't that he was obsessed with Nike shoes in his room. Oh my gosh, how people just twist these things. But that was who Swami was. When somebody would gift him, he would keep it. And he would, sometimes he'll open it, somebody will say, "Oh, this suit will fit you, but it is too hot for you, so suit is not important." He'll put it back. He's like, oh, I missed it, you would have given it to me. He did all this. Once he picked up his really old robes, he made us pick up a box from somewhere old, and all old cotton robes. What to do? Throw it off. We were like, "Swami, please don't throw those things." And then he gave each one of us that robe. He told me, "Cut this and make it into kurta, because don't wear it." So sweet, khadi, it was khadi, cotton. And he said, "Cut it and make it into kurta." Because I wore it and did my meditation for years and years till it slowly wore out. But that is who Swami was. He would keep everything with him. But it was with a sense of this detachment. It was not that he was attached to it or wanted to possess it or take it somewhere with him. All for giving. Always it was for giving, and nothing else. I remember one incident, and I don't talk about it publicly, but I'm so inspired to share this because it's a Sai family. One evening, Swami called and opened up a packet and there was a bundle of currency notes.
he put some, I think it was 25,000-30,000 rupees then, because of the coin. So he just put something like that, he folded it, he gave it to me, he said, West Prashanti, go, building behind the West Prashanti, they go to 3rd floor, there ask for Subbaya or somebody, some name, he said, go ask for him, give it to him. I said, okay, go. He said, go. I said, okay, that's important. So I ran. I was expecting to see some big shot, you know, was leaving there. I went there, I didn't see anybody. I saw one villager and his daughter coming out of one room. Villager, like he had his dhoti and kurta and one of those steel trunks, you know, the nice big. So he was carrying that and his daughter, and they were coming out. And so I was very skeptical. I said, did I come to the right building? This doesn't look like anybody whom Swami will know. Because you associate Swami physically telling somebody means somebody whom Swami has seen, or you don't expect some farmer-like person. And so I asked him, Subbaya, I said, oh, he is a person. So I said, Swami is in this way. He said, Baba comes to He said, Baba, I said, he opened it, and then immediately started crying. And Swami told me, give it and Nagochi Cheppu. Means I knew Swami wanted to know what happened. So I just stood. I knew obviously he didn't expect that money, it was evident. Then he said, Naina, you don't know. I came here, I spent a whole week because I had to get my daughter married. I didn't have money. And Swami is my childhood friend. So So I came to ask Swami for some money. Because I heard he's a very rich man now. That's how simple they were. I heard he's a very rich man, so I came to ask him money. But I came and saw he has no time for me. I thought, where did he see me? I didn't cry then, I cry now. Every time I share a story. You know, in mythology there's a story of Krishna and Sudama. I think of that story. Sudama is a poor man, he goes to see Krishna because his wife says, please, yeah, you got a rich friend, make use of him. But he's too ashamed to ask. He comes back, all his desires are fulfilled. That is what I saw in Swami. There was a reason why he kept things in his room. There was a reason why he did what he did. There was a reason. But it was never for him. Never. He would hardly eat anything. He would hardly wear anything other than this robes. Even the only gold he had were those 2 gold buttons. That was gold, pure gold. Because he said his sisters gave him. So he wore it. That's it. And so the idea of detachment is amazing. And so for me, when I take it to a more spiritual, when I look at it more spiritually, I think it's, you fall in love with Swami's form. You love him. And then a time comes when you have to, he leads you away from that form into the formless aspect of who he is. That is the highest form of detachment. And that can only come with blessing. It can only come with grace. I would like to end this with a small, it's going to be just 5 or 7 minute meditation with our sister Shaila wanted me to do it, and I felt Swami is asking me to do it. It's just a simple thing. I just like to end the session very peacefully. So, sit comfortably wherever you are, as long as you keep your spine reasonably straight. Because when the spine is straight, the brain understands that as being alert. If your spine is like this, the brain understands that as being relaxed or depressed. Right? So, comfortably straight when the brain is awake. And
also very involved in putting some logistics together to make this a successful event. So if you have any questions, please see us, and we will be more than happy to talk in detail about the retreat. Saram, and before we do the Aarti, I just want to remind everybody, tomorrow the program starts at 9:30 a.m. and I would request Brother Sunder to do that.
Right.